It was a calm morning in the small city of Riverside. The streets were quiet, and most people were heading to work or school. Officer Ryan was driving his patrol car along Maple Street, sipping his coffee and watching the neighborhood. He had worked in this area for years and knew almost every street by heart. It was a safe place most of the time, but something in the air felt strange that day. As Ryan stopped at a red light, he noticed movement near the park. A large German shepherd ran across the road, barking loudly and looking around in panic. Ryan frowned and put his coffee down. The dog wore a black canine vest with a police tag, but it was alone. There was no handler nearby. Ryan turned on his lights and pulled over to the side of the road. He stepped out of the car and called to the dog. The German shepherd stopped and looked at him with sharp brown eyes. It barked once, then ran toward him, whining and nudging his leg as if trying to get his attention. Ryan knelt down and saw the word Unit K9 to 23 stitched on the vest. The dog was shaking slightly, and its fur was dusty and wet. It looked like it had been running for a long time. Ryan gently touched the dog's collar and found a small digital tag. He pressed the button, and the screen lit up with a message. His face went pale as he read it. The collar displayed a warning. Emergency. Officer down. Device active. Location, 12th and River Road. Ryan's heart started to race. That was several blocks away from his current location. He looked down at the dog, who barked again and started running toward that direction. Ryan jumped back into his patrol car and followed. He radioed into dispatch, his voice tense. "This is Officer Ryan. I found K9 to 23 alone. The caller says officer down at 12th and River. Sending location now. Possible emergency." The dispatcher's voice came back immediately. "Copy that, Officer Ryan. Back up en route. Proceed with caution." The dog ran fast, darting through alleys and cutting across small streets. Ryan followed as close as he could without losing sight of it. People looked on in surprise as a police car and a German shepherd rushed through the neighborhood together. Ryan's mind was filled with questions. Whose canine was this? Why was it alone? What had happened to its handler? When they reached 12th and River, the area looked deserted. Old warehouses lined the street, and a few delivery trucks were parked nearby. The dog stopped near a metal gate and began barking furiously. Ryan stepped out, hand on his weapon, and scanned the area. The air smelled of oil and dust. He could hear faint noises from inside one of the warehouses. The German shepherd pawed at the gate, whining. Ryan pushed it open carefully and moved inside. The building was dimly lit, with broken windows and scattered boxes. The dog ran ahead, barking toward the back. Ryan followed, flashlight in hand, his heart beating faster. In the far corner, he found a police radio on the ground, still active but crackling with static. Next to it lay a torn piece of a uniform sleeve. The canine sniffed the cloth and whimpered. Ryan knelt to inspect it. The badge number matched the same unit printed on the dog's vest. That meant its handler was missing, or worse. Suddenly, a faint metallic sound came from the next room. Ryan stood up, motioned for the dog to stay low, and slowly approached. His flashlight beam swept across the room, catching glimpses of crates and pipes. The sound came again, sharper this time. Ryan turned a corner and froze. A large steel door at the back of the room was slightly open. Something heavy had been dragged inside recently. The dog growled softly, its fur rising. Ryan called into his radio. "Dispatch, I'm inside the old River warehouse. Signs of struggle. Possible injured officer. Need backup now." The dispatcher replied that units were 5 minutes away. Ryan could not wait. He pushed the door open carefully and aimed his light inside. It was a storage area filled with barrels and metal containers. The smell of fuel was strong. He spotted boot marks on the floor and a small flashlight lying near one of the barrels. Before he could move closer, the German Shepherd barked and ran to the left side of the room. It stopped near a metal shelf and scratched the ground. Ryan rushed over and saw something that made him stop breathing for a second. A small tablet device was blinking red. The screen showed a timer counting down from 10 minutes. Underneath, it was a black box with wires. Ryan realized what it was. It looked like a homemade explosive. His mind raced as he tried to think fast. He pressed his radio again. Dispatch, possible explosive device found at River Warehouse. Timer active. Evacuate surrounding area and send bomb squad immediately. The dog barked loudly again, as if understanding the danger. Ryan quickly pulled his phone and took a picture of the timer before backing away. He looked around for any sign of the missing officer but found none. Only the canine seemed to know more. The dog suddenly grabbed Ryan's sleeve with its teeth and pulled, urging him to follow. Ryan followed the dog to a side door that led out to a small alley. The dog stopped near a dumpster and started digging through some old boxes. Ryan bent down and helped move the trash aside. To his shock, he found a police cap with blood on the edge and a torn badge beside it. His chest tightened. The name on the badge read, Officer Luke. Ryan knew Officer Luke well. He was from another precinct, but had been helping with undercover work in this area. If Luke was involved, then this was not a simple case. Ryan looked around, searching for any other clue. The dog suddenly stood alert and looked down the alley toward a white van parked at the corner. Its engine was running quietly. Ryan crouched behind a trash bin and watched. The van door opened, and a man stepped out wearing dark clothes. He glanced around nervously before pulling something from the back of the van. Ryan could not see clearly, but it looked like a small black box with wires similar to the one inside the warehouse. Ryan whispered to the dog, "Stay." The German Shepherd stayed low, eyes fixed on the target. Ryan slowly took out his radio again. Dispatch, possible suspects on site. White van near warehouse alley. One male, handling suspicious device. Lockdown 12th and River immediately. The dispatcher responded quickly. Copy that, Officer Ryan. All units are moving in. Area lockdown initiated. Ryan kept watching as the man got back into the van. The dog started growling softly. Ryan could hear the faint sirens growing closer. The man in the van seemed to notice something was wrong. He turned the engine louder, ready to escape, before Ryan could move. The German Shepherd barked and ran toward the van, fearless and fast. The man shouted in surprise and tried to drive away, but the dog jumped and bit the driver's arm through the window. The van swerved and hit a lamppost. Ryan ran forward, pulled the door open, and aimed his weapon. Police. Hands where I can see them. The man hesitated, then raised his hands. Ryan cuffed him quickly and checked the van. Inside were several boxes filled with similar devices. Ryan's stomach dropped. This was bigger than he thought. He looked down at the brave canine beside him, panting but alert. He patted its head. Good job, partner. The dog wagged its tail once. Ryan looked at the locked street ahead as sirens filled the air. Backup cars surrounded the area. The whole street was now sealed off. The situation had just changed from a rescue to something much larger. And it all started with one canine begging for help. The street was filled with flashing blue and red lights. Police cars surrounded the area as officers began blocking every exit. Ryan stood near the white van, keeping his eyes on the suspect. The man sat on the ground with his hands cuffed, refusing to speak. The German Shepherd stayed close to Ryan, its ears alert and its body tense. Detective Harris arrived on scene, a tall man with gray hair and a serious face. He walked straight to Ryan. What happened here? He asked. Ryan explained everything quickly. I found this canine alone. Its collar said officer down at 12th and River. The dog led me here. Inside the warehouse, I found a timer on a device that looked like an explosive. Then I saw this man near the van with more of those boxes. Harris looked toward the warehouse. Bomb squad is already inside. They'll check if the device is real. Good work finding this. Ryan nodded but could not relax. His thoughts kept returning to Officer Luke. He looked at the German Shepherd, who was sitting beside the van, watching the officers carefully. The name tag on its collar read Rex. Ryan spoke softly to it. "You did good, Rex, but we still need to find your partner." Rex tilted its head and whined quietly, as if understanding. Minutes later, one of the bomb technicians came out from the warehouse, holding a radio. "It was real," he said. "If it had gone off, it could have taken down half the block. Someone was planning something big." Harris's face grew hard. "We need to question the man." He looked at Ryan. "Stay with the dog and check the nearby area. Maybe the missing officer is still close." Ryan nodded and took Rex with him toward the back of the alley. The morning sun was higher now, casting long shadows on the street. He followed Rex as it sniffed along the ground, moving carefully from one building to another. The dog suddenly stopped near a pile of old wood beside a fence. It barked once, then started digging. Ryan hurried over and pulled some of the wood aside. Underneath, he saw a small metal hatch leading underground. It looked like an old storage tunnel. Ryan tried the handle, but it was locked. Rex barked again and scratched at it harder. Ryan called it in through his radio. "Detective Harris, there's a locked hatch behind the warehouse." The dog found it. "Could be important." "Copy," Harris replied. "Wait for backup." But Rex was already pushing against the hatch, growling. Ryan could tell the dog was restless and anxious. He decided to take the risk. Using a crowbar from the patrol car, he forced the lock open and slowly lifted the hatch. A rush of damp air came out from below. The tunnel smelled like old water and rust. Rex went down first, barking softly as if signaling Ryan to follow. Ryan grabbed his flashlight and climbed down the ladder after him. The tunnel was narrow, with pipes running along the walls and puddles on the floor. Rex moved ahead, sniffing constantly. After a few minutes of walking, Ryan saw something shiny on the ground. It was a badge. Luke's badge. His chest tightened. "We're close, Rex," he whispered. A few meters ahead, Rex stopped and growled. Ryan aimed his flashlight and saw a figure lying on the ground. He ran forward and dropped to his knees. It was Officer Luke. His uniform was torn and his arm was bleeding, but he was breathing. "Luke, it's Ryan," he said quickly. "You're safe now. I found you." Luke opened his eyes slowly and smiled weakly. "Ryan!" "The van." They were planning to move the rest of it. "Did you stop them?" Ryan nodded. "Yes, one of them is in custody. We found the devices." Luke tried to sit up, but Ryan stopped him. "Don't move. Help is coming." Rex whined softly and licked Luke's hand. The injured officer smiled faintly and patted the dog's head. "Good boy, Rex. You did your job." Ryan radioed for medical help immediately. Within minutes, more officers arrived at the surface, and medics climbed down to help Luke. They carefully lifted him out and placed him on a stretcher. As they carried him toward the ambulance, Rex followed closely, never leaving his side. Detective Harris met them near the ambulance. "Good work, both of you," he said. "Luke is lucky that dog found you." Ryan watched as the ambulance drove away, sirens echoing down the street. The area was still surrounded by police. The suspect in the van had been taken away for questioning, but Ryan knew there had to be more behind this. The man looked too calm to be working alone. Later that day, Ryan sat in the police station with Rex lying beside his desk. He'd given the dog some food and water, and it now rested quietly but kept its eyes on the door. Harris entered the room holding a folder. "We ran the prints on the suspect," Harris said. "His name is Cole. He has a record for dealing in illegal weapons. He was released last month. We also found a map in the van showing several spots around the city." Ryan leaned forward. "What kind of spots?" "Warehouses, parking areas, and one near the downtown power station," Harris replied. "Looks like they were planning multiple hits." Ryan frowned. "And Luke might have found out about it." "That's what I think too," Harris said. "Luke was undercover in this area for weeks. He probably followed Cole here and got caught before he could report in." Rex raised his head and barked once, as if agreeing. Ryan smiled a little. "Rex probably saved us all." Harris nodded. "Keep him close. He's part of this now." That night, Ryan took Rex home temporarily since the K-9 unit was still investigating. His small apartment was quiet, and he laid a blanket for the dog near the couch. Rex curled up there, still alert. Ryan sat nearby, looking through the report files. He thought about Luke, now in the hospital, and the man named Cole sitting in interrogation. Something about the case still bothered him. There were too many moving parts, too much coordination. The next morning, Ryan returned to the station. Harris was already there, looking at the city map pinned to the wall. Several red circles marked different locations. "We got information from the bomb squad," Harris said. "The device from yesterday wasn't meant to explode right away. It was remote-controlled. Someone else might still have the trigger." Ryan's stomach tightened. "That means more danger." "Yes," Harris said. "We're going to check the other marked places. You and Rex will take the area near the old subway yard." Ryan agreed and got ready. Rex wore his vest again, proudly standing tall beside him. They drove toward the subway yard, an abandoned area that had been closed for years. When they arrived, the wind was strong, carrying dust and dry leaves through the empty streets. Ryan parked the car and stepped out. Rex started sniffing the ground immediately. There were tire marks near the entrance. Ryan followed them to a small service tunnel. The place was quiet except for the echo of their steps. Suddenly, Rex stopped and growled. Ryan raised his flashlight and saw footprints leading deeper inside. They followed carefully, staying close to the wall. After a few turns, they reached a large chamber filled with old train parts. In the center stood two figures wearing dark clothes, talking in low voices. Ryan could hear faint words about the signal and tonight. He crouched behind a metal crate, holding Rex's collar to keep him silent. He could see a black box on the ground beside the men. It looked like another explosive device. One of them took out a phone and pressed something on the screen. Ryan's pulse quickened. He whispered into his radio, "This is Officer Ryan at the subway yard. I have 2 suspects and a device. Request immediate backup." As he waited for the response, Rex's ears twitched. The dog looked toward a side tunnel and barked once, short and sharp. The men turned their heads instantly. Ryan had no choice now. He stepped out from behind the crate, aiming his weapon. "Police, don't move." The men froze for a second. Then one of them bolted toward the tunnel. The other grabbed the device. Ryan shouted, "Drop it." Rex lunged forward, fast and powerful. The man stumbled as the dog clamped onto his arm, forcing him to drop the device. Ryan moved in and kicked it away, pulling the man to the ground. Before he could secure the second suspect, there was a loud noise from the tunnel. Something metal slammed shut. The second man had disappeared into the shadows. Ryan cuffed the one on the floor and called for backup again. He looked down at Rex. The dog was panting but alert, eyes fixed on the dark tunnel. Ryan knew this was not over. Someone was still out there, and the real danger might be closer than anyone expected. The next morning began with heavy clouds covering the city. The streets were wet from the early rain, and the air smelled of damp concrete. Officer Ryan stood near his patrol car outside the subway yard, still thinking about the man who had escaped the night before. The captured suspect was in custody, but the one who ran was still missing. Ryan knew that whoever he was the key to understanding everything. Detective Harris arrived with a small team. He looked tired but focused. "We searched the tunnels all night," he said. "No sign of the second man. But we found shoe prints leading to the east exit. It looks like he escaped through the old drainage tunnel." Ryan nodded. "Then he's still somewhere in the city. He might try to finish what they started." Harris agreed. "The lab checked the device you found. It was linked to a signal receiver, not a timer. That means someone can activate it remotely. We think more of these devices are hidden around the city." Ryan frowned. "We need to find them fast." Rex stood beside him, alert as always. The dog sniffed the air and gave a short bark, as if sensing Ryan's tension. Ryan patted its head. "We'll find them, boy." Later that day, the police station was buzzing with activity. Officers moved in and out, carrying files and reports. Ryan sat at his desk, looking at a large map spread across it. Red pins marked the places connected to the devices. Harris joined him and placed another pin near the downtown water plant. "This is the newest location," Harris said. "Cole's phone records show a call from someone near that area. We think the missing man might be hiding there." Ryan looked at Rex, who was lying by his feet. "Then we go there next." An hour later, Ryan and Harris drove toward the water plant. The place was large, surrounded by tall fences and storage tanks. It was usually quiet, with only a few workers on site. When they arrived, the guard at the gate told them that 2 workers had not shown up that morning. Ryan exchanged a glance with Harris. "That's not a good sign," he said. They entered carefully, with Rex leading the way. The air was filled with the sound of machines humming and water rushing through pipes. Ryan noticed fresh tire marks near the back gate. He followed them toward a small maintenance shed. The door was slightly open. Rex stopped, sniffing the ground, then growled softly. Ryan took out his weapon and signaled Harris. They moved closer, pushing the door open slowly. Inside, the lights were dim. A few boxes were stacked against the wall, and a laptop sat on a table. The screen showed a map of the city with blinking dots. Ryan's stomach turned. "Those are all device locations," he whispered. Before they could move, a voice came from behind the shed. "Step away from that computer." Ryan turned quickly and saw a man standing there, holding a remote control in one hand. It was the same man who had escaped the night before. His face was covered with dust, and his eyes looked sharp and angry. Harris raised his hand. "Put the control down and step back." The man laughed coldly. "You think I will stop now? You already ruined one plan, but there are others. You can't stop them all." Rex growled louder, baring his teeth. The man took a step back, his thumb hovering over a button on the remote. Ryan moved slowly to his left, trying to get a better angle. "You don't want to do this," he said. "There are people in the buildings around here. You'll hurt innocent lives." The man's expression changed slightly, but he did not lower his hand. "You police think you can control everything, but this city is full of lies. Maybe it needs a reminder." Before he could press the button, Rex leaped forward. The dog hit his arm hard, knocking the remote out of his hand. Ryan rushed in and tackled the man to the ground. Harris kicked the remote away and cuffed him quickly. Rex barked twice, standing guard over the suspect. Ryan picked up the remote and examined it. It had a single button labeled Activate. His hands felt cold as he realized how close they had been to disaster. Harris exhaled deeply. "That was too close." Ryan nodded. "Good work, Rex." The team searched the shed and found several more small devices in a crate. Each one was ready to be planted. Ryan called for the bomb squad to secure them. The suspect, whose name was later identified as Mason, refused to talk. He kept staring at the floor, silent and calm, as if he had already accepted his fate. When the situation was under control, Ryan sat on the steps outside the shed with Rex beside him. The rain had started again, light and steady. He watched the bomb technicians carefully remove the devices one by one. Harris came over and handed him a report. "They found something strange in the files from the laptop," he said. "It looks like someone else was controlling Mason. The signals came from another location near the city's central grid." Ryan frowned. "So there's another person behind all this?" "Yes," Harris said. "And they might still have access to the system." That night, Ryan went home but could not sleep. The rain tapped against the window while Rex rested quietly at his feet. Ryan kept thinking about the message on the collar that had started everything. If Rex had not come to him that day, the whole city could have been in danger. But now it seemed the real threat was still out there. The next morning, Ryan was called back to the station. Harris was already waiting with new information. "We traced the last signal," Harris said. "It came from an old building near the downtown communication tower. It was once a power control office. The place has been abandoned for years." Ryan grabbed his gear. "Let's go check it." They drove through the busy morning streets until the tall tower came into view. The old control building stood nearby, half hidden behind other structures. Its windows were broken, and the walls were covered in graffiti. It looked like no one had been there for a long time. Ryan parked the car quietly. "We go in slow." Rex stays close. Inside, the building was dark and smelled of dust. The floor creaked under their boots. Ryan moved forward with his flashlight, scanning each room. In the center hall, they found a large table covered with maps, blueprints, and electrical diagrams. Cables ran across the floor, connecting to a laptop and several batteries. "This looks like another setup," Harris said. "But where's the person?" Suddenly, Rex barked once and turned toward a staircase leading to the basement. Ryan followed quickly, his weapon ready. They reached a heavy metal door that was slightly open. From inside came the sound of typing and faint music playing from a speaker. Ryan signaled Harris to cover the back. Then he pushed the door open and stepped in. The basement was filled with computer screens showing live city footage. A man sat in front of them, his face hidden under a hoodie. He turned slowly when he heard the door open. "You're too late," he said with a calm voice. "Everything is already connected." Ryan raised his weapon. "Step away from the keyboard." The man smiled. "You can stop one, maybe two, but not all of them. The system is everywhere now." Rex barked loudly, breaking the silence. The man flinched slightly. Harris moved in from the side, ready to act. Ryan took one step forward, his finger tight on the trigger. The man reached for a small device on the table. Before he could grab it, Rex lunged again, hitting the man's hand hard. The device fell and broke on the floor. Ryan rushed forward and pinned the man down. Harris cuffed him quickly. The basement filled with flashing lights from the computers as the screens started to shut down one by one. Ryan looked at Rex and smiled slightly. "You did it again." Harris examined the computers. "Looks like Rex triggered a system shutdown when he hit that device. He might have saved the whole network." Ryan stood up and looked around. "Let's take him in. We need to know who he was working for." As they walked out of the basement, the morning light was breaking through the clouds. Ryan looked at Rex, who walked proudly beside him, tail high. He knew the mission was not completely over yet, but one thing was certain. This dog was more than a canine partner. He was a hero. The next few days were long and filled with tension. The city began to calm down after the arrests, but inside the police department, everyone knew the case was not fully solved. The man they caught in the basement refused to speak. His name was Dylan, a computer engineer who had vanished from his job months ago. Investigators found that he had built the system connecting all the devices, but he would not say who had hired him. Officer Ryan sat in the briefing room with Detective Harris and a few other officers. Charts and maps covered the wall, each showing points linked to the case. Harris looked at everyone and said, "We have managed to trace most of the devices, but there is one we still cannot locate. It was mentioned in Dylan's files as the core unit. Without it, all others could still be reactivated. We need to find it before anyone else does." Ryan nodded. "Did we get any clue from his computer or phone?" "Not yet," Harris said. "He wiped most of the data before we caught him. But there's one thing." He wrote a line in his notes that said, "Core stays where the light never fades." We're trying to figure out what that means. Ryan looked thoughtful. "It could be a place that stays bright all day, maybe a high area or somewhere with lights always on." Rex, lying near Ryan's chair, suddenly lifted his head and looked toward the window. Ryan smiled and patted his head. "You have any ideas, partner?" Later that afternoon, Ryan and Harris went through Dylan's last movements before his capture. They checked surveillance footage from the days before. One video showed him driving a small black car near the edge of the city, close to an observatory on Hilltop Avenue. Ryan leaned forward. "That area fits the clue. The observatory lights are on all night." Harris nodded. "Let's check it. If the device is there, we need to move fast." They drove up the winding road leading to the observatory. The sky was turning orange as the sun began to set. The old building stood on top of the hill, quiet and half abandoned. Its dome-shaped roof was rusted, but a faint light glowed inside. Ryan parked the car and stepped out with Rex by his side. They approached carefully. The front door was unlocked, and the inside smelled of dust and metal. Old telescopes and broken machines lay scattered around. Ryan swept his flashlight across the floor, looking for any sign of movement. Rex sniffed near the stairs leading up to the dome. "Let him lead," Harris said quietly. Rex climbed the stairs, his nose close to the ground. At the top, the dome room was filled with equipment covered in tarps. The floor creaked under their boots. In the center of the room stood a tall tripod holding a strange black box with wires running to a power source. A small light blinked on it. Ryan felt his pulse quicken. That must be it. He moved closer and examined the box. It looked more advanced than the others. A screen on the side showed a single word, "Active." Ryan pulled back slightly and called over his radio. "This is Officer Ryan. We found a device at the old Hilltop Observatory. Request bomb unit immediately." The voice from dispatch answered, "Copy that. Team on the way." As they waited, Harris walked around the room, checking for any traps. "There's a signal receiver on that box," he said. "If anyone out there still has access, they can trigger it." Rex started barking suddenly, facing the doorway. Ryan turned quickly. A shadow moved behind the stairs. Someone was there. He aimed his flashlight and shouted, "Police, come out now." The figure stepped forward slowly. It was a man wearing dark clothes and a cap pulled low. His hands were raised slightly. "Don't shoot," he said. "I'm not here to fight." Ryan kept his weapon steady. "Who are you?" The man hesitated. "My name is Henry. I used to work with Dylan. I came here to stop what he started." Harris frowned. "Why should we believe you?" Henry looked at the device. "That box is not just an explosive. It's connected to a power grid. If it overloads, it can cut electricity across half the city. Dylan built it under orders, but he told me to destroy it if things went wrong. I was too late." Ryan studied his face. He looked tired and nervous, but his words seemed honest. "Then help us disable it." Henry nodded. "It's locked with a code." Dylan would have used his personal pattern. Give me a few minutes. He knelt beside the device, typing carefully. Rex stayed close, watching his every move. The air felt heavy, and the sound of wind against the dome made the moment tense. After a few seconds, Henry muttered, "The system is asking for confirmation from another source. Someone is trying to connect remotely." Ryan moved closer. "Can you stop it?" Henry shook his head. "I can block it for a short time, but not for long. You need to find the main signal tower they're using." Harris radioed dispatch again. "We need tech support to trace a live connection from the observatory. Possible external control signal." The reply came quickly. "Copy that. Tracing now." Rex barked once and looked toward the window. Outside, through the glass, Ryan saw lights moving down the hill. A black SUV was approaching fast. "We've got company," he said. They took cover as the vehicle stopped outside. 3 men jumped out, armed and dressed in dark uniforms. Ryan whispered, "Looks like they came to protect this thing." Gunfire erupted as the men fired toward the observatory. Glass shattered. Harris and Ryan returned fire, staying low behind the old equipment. Henry ducked beside the device, trying to protect it from bullets. Rex growled and barked, ready to act. Ryan moved to the side window and aimed carefully, managing to hit one of the attackers in the shoulder. The other 2 fell back behind their vehicle. "We need backup fast," Ryan shouted into his radio. "Units are 5 minutes away." Dispatch replied. Rex suddenly dashed toward the stairs. Surprising Ryan, the dog ran outside through the broken door and disappeared into the darkness. Ryan's heart jumped. He called out, "Rex, come back." But a moment later, he heard barking and shouting from outside. Rex had attacked one of the men trying to reload. The sound of the struggle echoed through the hillside. Ryan rushed out to help. He saw Rex holding the man down while another tried to pull him away. Ryan fired a warning shot into the air, forcing the second man to drop his weapon. Harris followed, securing the area as sirens began to echo from below the hill. Within minutes, police vehicles surrounded the observatory. The attackers were arrested, and Henry managed to finish disabling the device with the help of the bomb team. When the small screen on the box finally turned off, everyone let out a breath of relief. Later, Ryan stood near his car, looking at the city lights below. The air was cool, and the night sky was clear. Rex sat beside him, calm now, but still alert. Harris joined them. "We confirmed the last connection came from those men. They were part of a bigger group operating outside the city. Looks like this is the end of their operation." Ryan nodded slowly. Rex found them before they could escape. He saved the day again. Harris smiled slightly. "He deserves a medal." Ryan looked down at Rex and patted his head. "He doesn't need one. He just does what's right." As they packed up the gear, Henry approached them. "Thank you for trusting me," he said quietly. "I'm going to the station to give everything I know. Maybe we can stop anyone else from trying this again." Ryan shook his hand. "You did the right thing." When they drove back down the hill, the city looked peaceful again. But Ryan knew peace was always fragile. He glanced at Rex resting in the back seat, his eyes half closed after a long night. The brave canine had once again proved that loyalty and courage could turn fear into hope. The night turned cold and quiet after the heavy action on the blocked street. The flashing lights of police cars still covered the buildings in red and blue. Officer Ryan stood beside Max, the German shepherd, both of them tired but standing strong. The danger had passed, but their work was not finished yet. The criminal group that tried to steal the device was caught. But something still bothered Ryan. Max kept sniffing the air and looking toward a small side alley. Ryan trusted the dog's instincts more than anything. He gave a small signal, and Max started walking. The other officers stayed behind, guarding the area and checking the trucks. Ryan and Max entered the narrow alley. It was dark, with only a dim streetlight at the end. Max's ears stood up as he stopped near a trash bin. He growled softly. Ryan aimed his flashlight there and saw a small black bag half covered with old boxes. He opened it carefully and found a strange phone and a map. The map had red marks showing more places in the city. It was not over yet. Ryan quickly called his team and told them what he found. The chief arrived and looked at the map. It showed warehouses, old factories, and a few empty buildings. It seemed like those men were only one part of a bigger group. Ryan felt the pressure building again. He looked at Max, who stood still, his eyes sharp and ready. The dog was tired but alert, waiting for the next order. The next morning, a meeting was held at the station. Officers sat around the big table while screens showed the map from the bag. The chief explained that this group had been working on moving stolen tech items across the city. They were planning to sell them outside the country. Ryan listened carefully and then spoke. He told them about Max's reaction the night before and how the dog kept leading him to new clues. Everyone agreed that Max was more than just a canine. He was the reason they had stopped a dangerous plan before it spread wider. The team decided to search the remaining marked places one by one. Ryan and Max were assigned to lead the main unit again. Later that day, they went to the first marked building, an old storage site near the river. The building looked quiet, but Max began barking once they got close. Ryan took cover behind a wall and signaled his men to move in carefully. Inside, they found crates filled with stolen devices. Some people were still there trying to destroy evidence. Max jumped forward and stopped one of them from escaping. The man fell and surrendered immediately. The team arrested the rest. It took hours to secure the place, but in the end, everything was clear. The officers clapped Ryan on the shoulder, saying Max deserved a medal for his bravery. As they loaded the crates into police trucks, Ryan knelt beside Max and rubbed his head. "You did great, buddy," he said. Max wagged his tail slowly, happy but still watchful. Ryan smiled, thinking about how a dog running alone in the street had changed everything. The next day, the city news was full of reports about the brave canine who helped stop a huge crime operation. People across the city sent messages to the police department, thanking them for their service. Kids made drawings of Max wearing his police vest, and some families even visited the station to meet him. Ryan watched as Max sat proudly during the short ceremony where the chief awarded him a Medal of Honor. Cameras flashed, but Max only looked at Ryan as if to say, "We did it." Ryan felt proud and grateful. He knew that Max had not just done his duty as a police dog. He had saved lives and brought peace to the street. After the ceremony, Ryan took Max to the park near the station. It was a calm afternoon, with sunlight shining through the trees. Max ran freely for a while, chasing a ball and sniffing around. Ryan sat on a bench, finally feeling relaxed after days of tension. When Max came back, Ryan took off his vest and let him rest by his side. Ryan thought about how the story had begun, a lost canine begging for help in the middle of the night. If he had ignored that call, the criminals might have succeeded in their plan. It reminded him that sometimes fate worked in strange ways. One brave dog had chosen the right human to trust. Later that evening, Ryan visited the animal care center where Max had been trained. He wanted to thank the trainers for their hard work. They were proud to hear how Max had performed. One of them told Ryan that Max had always been special, calm but determined, always focused. Ryan agreed and said that Max was not just a dog. He was his partner. When they returned to the station, the team had prepared a surprise. They had a large picture of Max placed on the wall under the title, "Hero of the Street." Ryan smiled as everyone clapped. Max sat proudly in front of the picture, Wagging his tail as if he understood everything. As the days passed, things slowly returned to normal. The city was safe again. The other officers sometimes joked that Max should lead the team because he had better instincts than all of them. Ryan laughed and agreed. One night, Ryan was sitting in his car, watching the quiet streets during patrol. Max sat beside him, his head resting near the window. The radio was silent, and the stars were bright. Ryan looked at Max and said, "You know, buddy, I think this city sleeps better because of you." Max looked at him with calm eyes, then barked softly as if saying he agreed. It was peaceful. But Ryan knew that their work was never truly done. Somewhere out there, another call for help would come. And when it did, he and Max would be ready again. The story of the German Shepherd canine who begged for help became a legend in the department. New officers were told about that night when a dog ran to a cop for help and ended up stopping a major crime. For Ryan, it was more than a story. It was a bond built through trust, courage, and understanding. As the patrol car drove through the quiet streets, Ryan smiled. The city lights reflected on the windshield, and Max's reflection appeared beside his. They were a team, unbreakable and loyal. No words were needed between them. The silence spoke louder than anything. The night was calm, and the city was safe. The hero dog rested beside his partner, waiting for the next moment when duty would call again.